Councilmember Louie,
Present.
Councilmember Halleck,
Present.
Councilmember Shirley,
Here.
Councilmember Ragsdale Cronin,
Here.
Mayor Donaldson.
Here, please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is public comment. Public comment must deal with matters subject to the jurisdiction in the city and the council that are not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the city council on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. There'll be a time limit of no more than 3 minutes per speaker. Public comment is now open.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, I'm Karen Harris. I reside on Rosita, and I'm representing Sustainable Derrios tonight as their co-chair. I just want to, first of all, recognize and congratulate Karen Minami for her 20 years of service here, putting up with us all these years in such a graceful, professional, patient manner. Anyway, hope you continue to stay on with us. I have a couple of announcements to make. The Butterfly Garden Beautification Day is going to be the second Saturday of every month. And that's going to be July the 13th at the Butterfly Garden between the church and the tennis courts. And we meet at 10 o'clock and it's just for 2 hours. And we invite you to come look at our insect hotel. It's a bug hotel. It's new there to invite our 6-legged friends to come and help us pollinate while they get rid of some little pests that we don't like. So we hope to get some ladybugs and some butterflies. So if you're there, go ahead and feel comfortable to add to the butterfly garden. And we don't think we have any big tenants yet, but hopefully we won't have to pay any transient occupancy.
That's to stay longer than 30 days.
We'll have to monitor them. But they're doing such good work for the city. July the 20th, we have a city trash pickup day, and we're going to be meeting at 10 o'clock for 2 hours till noon. We're going to meet at the park. We plan on going down 268 towards the Stone Creek Village, because there's quite a pile up there of trash. And then on September the 21st at 9 a.m., we're going to be hosting our 5th Coastal Cleanup Day. And we're going to be doing that with this Save Our Shores. And we're going to meet behind Safeway. So we'll be collecting all the trash out there, protecting the Work Memorial Park, and also weighing everything that we collect and counting all the bags. And so it's going to be a big deal, part of an international event. And we'll be hopefully collecting so much, that we're going to make a huge effort throughout the world. So we're going to be a part of that event. So thank you for listening, and
Thank you, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor Donaldson and council members. My name is Marta Kravchuk, and I'm here today to express concerns about a $340 million bond measure proposed by the Monterey Municipal Unified School District for the November election. In 2010, voters approved MPUSD's $110 million Measure P. In 2018, MPUSD hired architects to evaluate all school sites within the district and produce a facilities needs assessment. MPUSD used this assessment to implore voters to fix the crumbling infrastructure of our schools. So again, in 2018, voters approved a $213 million Measure I bond. This new proposed bond would be the 3rd bond in just 14 years. As a homeowner, I would have anticipated that MPUSD would triage each school site and determine the most pressing needs based on funding. In fact, MPUSD promised that they would prioritize the most urgent needs. However, that did not happen. Instead, without transparency, MPUSD used our taxpayer bond dollars for construction projects that were not even considered a need, ignoring many facilities that would benefit all students and staff, such as new doors, windows, restroom upgrades, ADA compliance, replacements of decades-old portables, gym renovation, and an increase in the number of electrical outlets in each classroom, where most still have only 2. Many property owners do not understand that a bond is like a mortgage, and taxpayers are on the hook for paying back both the interest and principal on these bonds. Local property owners are still paying for Measure P and Measure I. According to MPUSD's document, the payback for Measure I alone is $436 million, and the payback for this proposed bond would be an additional $694 million, raising the total MPUSD indebtedness for property owners close to $1.2 billion. MPUSD has stated once again they need the money to fix the schools. MPUSD had over $300 million in taxpayer funding, but they did not prioritize their spending based on the urgent needs of the schools as they promised. Some of the same facility needs that were mentioned back in 2010 and 2018 are now mentioned again. Why should taxpayers fund MPUSD's current wish list when they didn't use our tax dollars for what they promised to do the last time around? This proposed bond would be adding hundreds of dollars annually to individuals' property taxes, impacting homeowners and renters alike. I encourage you all to take a look at your own property tax statement and what you currently pay for MPUSD's past bonds. If this proposed bond is passed, this amount would essentially double, and all of us would be paying hundreds of dollars every year for at least the next 30 years to pay off a $1.2 billion debt. Please consider the impacts of this bond on all your constituents. Thank you for your time.
Mike Hayworth, Carlton Drive, Mayor, and kind of I think it's common knowledge that there's always a shortage in our blood supply. You may, and all of you at some time may have needed or know somebody that needed blood. In recognition of that need, the city is sponsoring a blood drive on Monday, July 22nd, from 1 to 5 at the park in Angeles Way. The FDA has said that 60% of people can give blood. So when you register, there's a questionnaire to verify if you're eligible. It doesn't matter if you know your blood type, you probably know before you leave. I encourage everyone to get the word out to your friends and neighbors. There's flyers in the kiosks. Notice on the city website, on the city's Facebook page, and soon there will be sample reports around town announcement. Donors don't need to be Delaware residents. Matter of fact, the more the merrier. While we'll accept walk-ups, it's best to make an appointment beforehand. As you came into the chamber, you will notice there's some flyers on the table out there. I encourage you all to take one and make an appointment. Hope to also see you all there. Thanks for your time, and also want to recognize Karen for 20 years. Thank you.
You'll have more time to do that here in a second. Because, but first of all, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to an item that I'm very excited about, and that's recognizing someone for their tremendous contribution over a very significant amount of time, and that's a proclamation honoring Karen Manami for 20 years of service to the city. So, whereas Karen Manami has served the city of Del Rios with distinction and dedication for the past 20 years, and during her tenure, Karen has demonstrated unwavering commitment, professionalism, and excellence in her duties, ensuring the efficient operation of the city's governmental processes and maintaining the integrity of public record. And whereas Karen has been a pillar of support for the city council, city staff, and the residents of Del Rios, providing guidance, knowledge, assistance with exemplary attitude. Whereas her contributions have significantly enhanced the transparency and accountability of our local government, fostering a strong sense of trust and cooperation within our community. And whereas Karen's dedication extended beyond her official duties, as she has actively participated in numerous community events and initiatives, strengthening the bonds that unite our residents and promote a spirit of city pride. And whereas it's fitting that we honor and recognize the outstanding service of individuals like Karen Nunn, whose efforts have made a lasting impact on our city and its people. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Scott Donaldson, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Delray Oaks, do hereby extend our deepest appreciation and gratitude to Karen Manami for 20 years of dedicated service and exemplary contributions to our community.
Didn't even need to write it inside. Nice.
And
And Laura, Stacy, or are you with that?
so on behalf of our city council and the entire city of Delray Oaks, it's my honor and my pleasure to give you this proclamation. All right, you're very welcome. But oh, there's more. We also have this award, which is for Karen in recognition, components. In recognition for 20 years of dedicated service to the citizens of the city of Delray Oaks from the 21st of June, 2004 to the 21st of June, 2024.
Thank you.
Want to turn that one there?
Okay,
Turn that, there we go.
Oh my God, no better.
all your swag. So, if you want to say some things.
I would like to thank everybody, thank you, council, my planning commissioner. And all the residents and all the appreciation that I've been shown. I want to especially thank my coworkers and my police department. And, thought I could not do this without crying, but this surprised me. Thank you, thank you.
That was Team 50, huh?
In 2006, Karen's face was one of the first face I saw when I came in those doors for the first time. So all these years later, you're still the face that I see. You're not going anywhere till I go.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Hey, Karen, you got anything else?
No, just thank you for everything. I'm not a big public speaker, so, I just blown away and I didn't, there were times where I didn't think I would get to 20 years. But,
So close.
Mayor, thank you so much.
Okay. I'm gonna allow everyone to say a few words and I'll start with our city manager.
Oh, you was.
So obviously, most of you have known Karen a lot longer than I've known Karen. She's an institution in this town. She's a city treasurer, if I can be so bold. She's the reason that my hair's gray, but I still have hair. So, the last 3 years would have been, really tough without you. You know, you're gonna hear from everybody here. You're the glue that keeps all this together. So, really appreciate everything that you do for the city. I appreciate everything that you do for me, because you keep me sane.
I appreciate you, Joe.
And help us get through all of this, because it's a tough job. So, but I know that you've been that for everybody. The reason that we have Mike as our chair of the planning commission is only because of you. He wouldn't have done it if you weren't around here. I know for a fact. And we're grateful that you do it. For everything that everybody does here, it all stems from Karen and her support. And now we have a bigger, better team GSD. And I'm not joking. None of this would have happened without Team GSD, because the guys on Team GSD would have dropped the ball. 100%, because we all looked around, like, who's gonna plan this? Karen, we can't tell Karen. I finally had to tell her that she was getting a proclamation because she puts the agenda together and it's on the agenda. So Cookie does.
Yeah, the secrets.
But yeah, so thank you for everything that you do. It's been an incredible 20 years and looking forward to 20 more.
No.
Let's see Valerie, your daughter, so she'll make sure that that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Councilmember Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Karen, such a well-deserved recognition in your award, and thank you for your tenure and 20 years of experience to the city. I as well see you as the face of the city. You were the first person that I saw when I walked in on a personal and professional level into these into this office. And you just your very presence made the experience in acquiring a building permit just one of ease and pleasurable, which is not all that common with contractors in other municipalities. But I won't go on for too long. Just thank you so much for all you do. I think one of the more pointed lines in your in the commendation here in the proclamation is that Karen's duties extend beyond just your official. And it's so true on a human level. I've said it before that oftentimes I'll be having a day of sorts and I'll just come in to gather my mail and grab a lifesaver and hang out for a little while. Because you as a person rub off on me and I leave feeling a little bit happy. And I know that that's extended and felt to everyone on a professional and a personal level that comes through these offices. And it's just a very, just a distinct pleasure to work with you and to know you as a friend.
Thank you, Karen.
And I'm sure you'll just be an amazing city clerk and department head for your increasingly valuable Team GSD members. And just thank you. Thank you for being a friend and thank you for being on.
Councilmember Sherrill.
Yes, oh Karen, I want to thank you for your dedication to Delray Oaks. You have seen many city managers, you have been through a lot in the city. What I admire you as well for is your continued effort to educate yourself. And we've got, I mean, you've increased in your responsibilities since you've been here. And you have carried Delray Oaks so far. And I appreciate that. You are, you carry a lot of knowledge and we value you for that and your kindness. And again, just your love for all of us in the state, and we love you. And thank you so much for what you do. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Radcliffe.
So Karen, way back, you used to have to call me and yell at me for not paying my dues or my fees for storing my clothes to my friend, so I was always kind of scared of you a little bit. Like, you're gonna pay or not?
That's
And I put that pay, and then I remember one time I paid, I was like all up to date, everything, I went down, I couldn't find a key. Don't have to care about key, so, but we've had wonderful times, you made my transition onto the city council with the planning commission seamless and wonderful, I think you did a great job, and everybody that I hear of that interacts with you, just thinks you did a great job. So, I'm happy that you got your 20 years in, hopefully you got a few more left in you. Before you retire, then I would get to enjoy your retirement.
Vice Mayor Uli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much, dear Karen, from the bottom of my heart for your unwavering dedication to our city. You've always been my inspiration here since I stepped foot on the city hall. Because when the first time, I just remember the first time that I encountered you, you are very graceful, and I really like for me, that's a role model for me. I've always been, would like to be graceful all the time and have my composure, and you have that, and I've seen that in you. And so that's why, thank you so much. You've been an exceptional role model for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Karen, you know, you're one of the most very special people in this world to me, and I love you and thank you for everything that you have done and that you continue to do. So let's give her, out to the public. I forgot. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a public comment?
I'm not very good at this because I'll choke out, but you know how I feel about you. 9 years of pencils. 19, 20. Planning commission, and
19, you've been on the planning commission 19 years.
yeah, you've done a lot.
You got it.
Please.
Karen, you were the first person I talked to when I moved here. I came and asked you about doing some planting on the city land behind my house on that slope, and you've just been wonderfully helpful this whole time I've been here, and it's just like, you're an awesome person, and it's just been a privilege to know you,
It's my pleasure.
so.
Thank you.
And I have to apologize, I forgot our city attorney, Alex. So. Karen, when I first met you, it was a tumultuous time. And I think you and I are the original crew, the remainders of that original crew. And through all, you've always been, as Councilmember Louis said, so graceful and so kind with me, turning, suffering my edits to the agendas, but always, making sure that, the language is just right every time I come in for meetings and all that. It's always just such a pleasure, and it really exemplifies for me the small town atmosphere that we have here. And I know that, some of the folks have talked about going over and above, of course, hosting us at your beautiful house. For our staff, they're not supposed to know that, we got this together. But anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to work with you, and I just wanted to say as much.
Right back at you. Thank you.
All right, let's give Karen a final round. Unfortunately, we have to move on to the boring stuff now, and that's our consent agenda. Are there any items that any council member would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, are there any items from the public that you would like to pull? Okay, also seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, none opposed, motion passes. We'll move on to our next item, which is old business. We have none. Our first item of new business is to adopt resolution 2024-09, placing a measure on the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot, amending the municipal code to increase the city's transient occupancy tax rate. And I'll turn that over to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is something that we've talked about a couple of times. And the last time was in February. We were a little ahead of the game, after we got direction from you. That's why we had so many months in between. We were waiting for the elections office to catch up to us. So now here we are, we're ready. So back in February at the council meeting, we discussed, with you all whether or not you wanted to proceed with, the option of increasing TOT. We mentioned how TOT has become one of our top revenue sources. It's kind of helped fill the gap with the downturn in cannabis revenue. So it's really kind of helping keep our budget status quo. But as we mentioned, regionally, when you look just at all of the Bay Area cities around the Monterey Bay, we're among the lowest. In fact, us and Carmel are the two lowest when it comes to percentage that we charge for transient occupancy tax. We currently pay our charge to 10%. Everyone else is around 12%, and Marina is ahead of the game at 14%. So we got a lot of feedback from the public who was here. We got a lot of feedback from you all. That everybody seemed to agree. I don't think we got any comments that we should keep it or that we were too high. All of the comments were that we were too low and wanted to see it increase. So I think that the general direction was, hey, bring something back to us that looks at 14%. So what we're proposing here is, you know, it's up to you all. How do you want to do this? What your direction is to staff? But, you know, staff, we went back and talked about it, Alex and I talked about it, and do we want to be out in front of everybody, which is not a bad thing, but, you know, I don't know if that's really where we want to be and be with Marine, that pushing the envelope on 14%. So what we came up with was a recommendation to put in language to increase the TOT by as much as 4%, which would give you the option of increasing it to 14%. But with the recommendation that currently we just set it at 12%. So it's a 2% increase. It's not a big jolt to anybody's system. But we don't have to go back to the voters if at a later time we want to increase it to 14%. That could be done by the city council through resolution. So I don't know that I need to go into too much detail on this. We've talked all about it, but that's what the recommendation is here. Alex and I have worked with outside counsel to make sure that we're all covered here. So we have one of the best tax attorneys in the state look at this, so we're good from a legal perspective. And so with that, I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No questions, just general comments. I said from the outset, I'd like us to start off at 14%. I think that neighboring municipalities are going to meet that and exceed that in the very near future. Recognizing that it is a very becoming stronger revenue stream. I'm glad to see that it's increasing. The language in the measure does allow us the flexibility to do so, so I appreciate that, as well as city managers and city attorneys' response to our direction in researching the direction that we should go in this. And so I support this item. Placement of this amendment.
Thank you. Councilmember Sherwood.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I am also in support of this. I like how you arranged it to kind of give us a little leeway. I'm in support of starting at 12%. And then moving to 14 if we need to. I think that let's stay in there. I'm not hearing about many others raising their TOT at this point, so I think us being the lowest, I think it makes sense to move it up. My only question was, I was wondering who was going to write the ballot argument in support. I was just wondering if that's a discussion we have today. And then if it's more than 3 of us, I was wondering how we get around the Brown Act. So.
You like to take that question?
I believe it provides for a process of how those are selected. If it was more than 2 of you, I don't think that would be possible, but what I believe it contains language in there. Let's say you get 5 or 7 people who want to, how are those people chosen?
So having an outside person, not having a council.
I believe the council member can, but I'd have to look into that for specific.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, if I can, just, so I can read it for anybody who's watching too, like there's dates that are probably good for people to know. And so that's a more accurate to do that. So this would be putting this ballot item on the Tuesday, November 5th, general election. It'll be done by resolution today, June 25th, 2024. Anybody who wants to submit arguments, you should submit them to the clerk, Karen Manami, by 5 p.m. To the city clerk's office by August 1st, 2024. And then rebuttals to any arguments will be due by 5 p.m. to the city clerk's office on August 15th, 2024. And also the city attorney will draft an impartial analysis of the measure, which will be also due on August 5th. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments?
No, yeah.
Councilmember Lang said,
No, I mean, this is, I'm kind of Jeremy on this, or Councilmember Howling. Professional, sorry. Jumping out front, it's not a bad thing, but giving us the room to work with it, I think it's probably better. We could go to 12 and then jump to 14 or 13 and 14. We see a real beat in the budget process. So I think it's very well done. I'm glad you guys, staff did a wonderful job on the presentation, so I think that.
okay. Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to commend, the city manager and our city attorney for drafting this and also for, really like, actually also going for other third-party counsel, making sure that this is really like legal and also everything is good to go for our ballot measure. And I support this measure, and especially because, we need the revenues. I've seen, ever since I've been in council, I've seen that, we really like need to have more revenues for our city, so we can provide more services. And, that's why my only thought right now is, of course, we're gonna be putting this on the ballot. And there will be the word tax in there, so, how would, our residents, would perceive this? So is this gonna be, because sometimes, when we see tax, I don't want tax, so, but how can we ensure, that, our community residents will be knowledgeable about what type of tax is this, whether, this is not really like something that we as homeowners would pay, but also the intention for our hotel guests. So, that's all from me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up to the public. Any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. I would just like to say, I agree with my fellow council members. And many of you know that tourism has a pretty big impact on Delray Oaks. The noise, the congestion, and we get very little benefit from tourism, whereas the rest of the peninsula cities do in fact get that benefit that comes with that impact. I think it makes sense the way that the ballot measure is written. Makes sense. I think I agree with Councilmember Shirley, 12% is a good place to go with it to get us on par with those other cities, with the option of going higher. Whatever we decide to do, or hopefully the voters will approve it. It will make us that area, transient occupancy tax, will become our third largest source of revenue for our city. That's what it will do to that. That's the impact that it'll have to our revenue. One of the other things too that I'll point out, in addition to providing money for services and those things that we need in the city, it will also provide us the potential to hire an enforcement company that will do that work that our city staff does now, to make sure that there's no unlicensed short-term rentals in the city, and the ones that are operating are paying what they need to pay. So that's another good aspect of this that would accompany that increase in revenue. So with that, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes. All right, I'll move on to the next item, which is to approve and authorize the city manager to sign an exclusive right to negotiate, which is an ERN agreement between the city and City Ventures for the development of fleet parcels on the former Florida. With that, I'll give it to the city manager.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So, you've all probably noticed we have a lot of big things on this agenda. These are major things for the city.
Yes.
Increasing the TOT is not a small thing, so thank you for that. But it's good. It's good for establishing. You'll see when I give the budget presentation later that revenues are an issue, and the sustainability of this city for the future is an issue. This is our next opportunity, is development of the former corridor parcels out there. This is something that's been in the works for 20 years, 15 years, 20 years. And we've had a couple starts since you've been on the planning commission. This is one like a planning commission. Right. Yeah, so this is big. But this is just a start. This is not, so this is an exclusive rights negotiated agreement. This does not lock the city into approval of any kind of development. This is really, the start of the courtship, basically, you could call it that. We're not even sure we're gonna date yet with the developer. So back in February of last year, you all approved submitting a notice of availability and declaring, well, the year before that, we declared those parcels surplus under the new Surplus Land Act requirements. We got one housing provider who submitted a letter of interest on the parcels out there. And under the guidelines of the state legislation, we're required to work with any housing provider in the interest of trying to provide more affordable housing because we have a housing crisis here. This is also, they talk a lot about our housing element. So this is a normal process. We would have gone through this process anyway. It would have just been through an RFP. We would have done an RFP and then got developers to submit proposals, and then we would have evaluated those proposals, and the council would have picked a developer to work with through that process, and we would have entered into the same process. So this doing an ERN is not dictated by the Surplus Land Act, but because we're under these new regulations from the state, and we did get a letter of interest and a proposal from a housing developer, under those rules, we are required to negotiate in good faith with them. And that's basically what an ERN is also. So we have the old ways and now the new ways merging. So this ERN is an agreement. It's just an agreement that we're going to work together to do due diligence. There's really not a lot of requirements on the city other than to work with the developer to provide information for them, to help them with studies. And this agreement is a way for the developer then to reimburse us for that work, to reimburse us for Allison's time, for my time, for Denise Duffy's time, our economic development consultant, EPS, for their time. And then for them to do their due diligence on looking at what the parcel is. They haven't really put any money into it because we haven't gotten to this point. So this is where they start to put skin in the game, and then also where they start to really investigate what are the constraints of that parcel, what are the opportunities of that parcel, what is it going to take, what development can work out there, and then that's what we'll start to talk with the community. So we set a timeline on this because we don't want them to drag this on forever, because if it's not going to work, we want to know sooner rather than later so that we can cut them loose and start looking for somebody else to work with, who would be a better partner and get where we want to go. So the initial term of this would be for 6 months. And then we have 2 extension periods potential for 3 months each. So could be a year. But obviously we also have the ability, if we're making good progress and they're meeting all of their milestones, and it looks like we're getting to a viable development, keep on like working with them, we always have the opportunity, you, the council, have the opportunity to extend for longer, which is a possibility, because the end goal, the end product of this is to get a development agreement. And so the development agreement is what will actually start to lay out what is the project going to look like, how are we going to finance it, how do we get the infrastructure out there, the utilities, the roads. If we're going to want to have public facilities, like maybe a new city hall, that would be part of that. How is that going to be financed? We'll have rules on, developers make their money on the housing aspects, and that bankrolls everything else. So we may want to have benchmarks in there on, it's going to be a phased project. So it'll go in phases. And so the first phase could be the housing, because then that's how they finance the other development. So you get this much housing. And then at that point, before we issue any more building permits, we want the new city hall constructed or something like that, so. I'm just thinking out loud, we don't know any of this yet, because that's what this ERN gives us the ability to start fleshing all of that out. So development of a development agreement. Creating a development agreement, better way of saying it. It is a fairly involved process for that parcel out there. It's gonna be a very involved process because there's a lot of unknowns out there that need to be explored and figured out. But also we have an EIR that has to be done. And so if you get to the point where you're approving a development agreement, you'd be approving an EIR at the same point. And EIR is tricky out there. It could take, that's why I said we could extend this longer than a year because the EIR could take longer than a year. And so you don't want to put the time constraint that's going to contradict with the EIR process. But all of that requires public hearings and public meetings. Through the EIR process and the development of the development agreement, we'll be going to the planning commission and working through this stuff with them and then coming to the city council. So there's gonna be a number of opportunities for the community to have input and to talk with the developers about expectations of development out there and what we'd like to see as a community. Before we even get to saying, yeah, okay, we're gonna go forward with this with you. So, this is just, like I said, feeling them out and them feeling us out and feeling out the project and trying to come up with something. There's a very real possibility that we get to a point where they can't conceive of a project out there that actually pencils out for them and they want to back out. That happens all the time as well. So, so there's provisions in there for that. So, this doesn't guarantee anything other than we're going to work together and we're going to put our best effort to try to get something done out there. Or get community input as much as possible. So some other key points, I talked about the term. Like I said, the deliverables are mostly on the developer with the end goal being an EIR and a development agreement. To fund it, this is kind of wonky finance stuff, but just for people to know that we have provisions in there to safeguard the city. So if you all decide to give me the authority to sign this and we enter into this agreement, then as soon as City Venture signs this, they'll send us a check for $75,000 and we'll put that into an account. And that will be what we start to utilize to pay for staff time and to pay for our consultants' time for all the work that we're doing on their behalf in order to help them flesh out this development. There's also a provision that when we get down to $20,000, then they have to put more money in to bump back up because we don't want to get into a situation where we owe Alex or East money and the account is down to zero. We have to wait for the new check to come in. And then also in recognition of the work that we've already done to this point, getting to this point, there's a non-refundable negotiation payment of $10,000. It's not really making us whole on all the work that we've done, but that's not necessarily anybody's fault. It's just a good faith payment, putting some skin in the game. And then, like I said, city responsibilities are very minimal. Our responsibilities are to negotiate in good faith to help them in any way we can within our purview to get the information that they need and get the studies that they need done. But then more importantly, not to talk to any other developers and not negotiate with anybody else. We can only negotiate with City Ventures. So at least for the term of this contract, we're only talking with City Ventures at this point going forward. So with that,
Okay, thank you, city manager, for that. I'll go to Councilmember Howell first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Manager Jordan, for explaining to us in many details and nuances, and even some speculations as to, based on your knowledge, your base of knowledge in how these processes unfold. Even before we get there, just considering entering into initializing this agreement. I was very impressed with City Ventures team. When they held their public outreach event for us, I found them to be very receptive, high level of respect for their professionalism. Their resume is impeccable. And yeah, just again, very receptive to city leaders and the public in general. My only disappointment is that more of the public did not show up on this, which has been noted, kind of on the table for a couple decades nearly, and a very sensitive matter accordingly. So I would like to encourage the public to be present at what will surely be many more outreach programs offered by City Ventures. Thank you for highlighting the fact that there is a level of compliance at the state level that we've got to meet. I think this is a great developer to enter into that good faith and demonstrate that good faith arrangement with. That we can find beneficial not only for the city, but regionally and statewide in answering to the affordable housing crisis. And I only have good things to say. Thank you again for the presentation. And I support turning into this agreement.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Shirley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the staff for working on this. I know you've been working on this for quite a while. I will say that I am in support of this. I know that this is just a necessary step we need to do with the Surplus Land Act, and so we need to negotiate with this developer, and I'm happy that this is the developer we're negotiating with. I'm pleased that it seems as though there's really little risk for the city in this. I feel like you've covered all the bases, and that we can bail out if things aren't going well, and they can too, so I appreciate that. I was not completely clear when I read it, if we were gonna end up with a development agreement, or if this is just like the legwork. And at the end, they'll say yes, and then we do a development agreement. So is it clear that at the end, if all goes well, we'll have a development agreement?
The city manager and I talked about, so, John, go ahead.
And maybe I'll talk about it, but yeah, that is the key deliverable in the agreement.
Okay,
So we get to the development.
okay, okay. So within a year, again, assuming all things go well, and they take the 6 months plus the 2-3 month extensions, within that year, they'll have enough outreach to our residents, to the council, they'll do an EIR, they'll have a good idea of what we want, and they'll be able to come up with a plan that we could say yes or no to. Does that summarize what this process would be? I just want to be really clear.
I was just gonna say, Councilmember Shirley, so that not all that work will necessarily be done in a year,
Okay,
but an agreement that spells out that work. Yeah, the hope is to enter into that, if all goes well, as you mentioned, within a year.
okay. So yeah, never developed before, so I want to be very clear. So in a development agreement, does that already say, like, this is what we're gonna build exactly?
Generally, they do.
Okay, okay.
With timelines and everything.
Okay, so we will need to, they'll be talking with us a lot to try and get our feedback.
Yeah, it'll lay out the timeline process, all the planning process, it'll lay out the construction timeline, everything.
Okay, so I guess that's the one thing that I would like to see in this agreement is maybe a commitment to a certain number of outreach opportunities for our residents. So I'll state that. I would hope that they do. I mean, it's noted in here, they'll look at our general plan and it's like, oh, well, there's some issues there. I want them to really hear from the residents. I want them to hear from us. Because right now, I'll say, I think that part of our general plan needs to be amended. And so I want to make sure that they're going to move forward with the plan to really listen to us and take our opinions into consideration when they work through to see if this is feasible for them. So. I also want to say, so on the, what is this? This is exhibit D, the schedule of deliverables. I was a little confused. We have a schedule of performance. It says within 30 days after the effective date. That they are gonna, that they'll, let's see, I'll just read it. Within 30 days after the effective date, City Ventures shall provide the city for its review and approval. A proposed detailed schedule of performance for the project, which shall include but not be limited to dates for obtaining land use entitlements, financing commitments for the project. The date for the submittal of construction plans to the city, the date for close of escrow on the site, right? So some very big things. The next one is due diligence. It says within 120 days after the effective date, they're gonna do lots of things. And then there's another one for the preliminary plan. So I looked up, what's the effective date? And the effective date is July 1st. So within 30 days, after July 1st, they're gonna give us all that information, and within 120 days, they're gonna be able to give us a preliminary plan.
If I might, yeah, so the schedule of performance is sort of milestone along the way, doesn't call for a ton of detail around that. But as this reads, it's sort of them laying out the process for going through that, and you have 30 days to do that. And so that's a sort of the objectives. The due diligence period allows them to sort of follow on details of that. So it doesn't commit them to doing anything, rather it's just them providing a schedule of when they anticipate certain things to be done. And they let us know that within 30 days.
They have to, oh, okay. So like, again, preliminary plan within 120 days after the effective date for the site. They'll submit to the city a proposed conceptual development program for the site that includes a detailed description of the proposed use of the site, including the square footage for each type of use. B, a proposed development phasing schedule. C, a proposed housing affordability and the nature of affordability control. D, a preliminary financing plan containing development operating pro formas, and E, a preliminary site plan. So all of that, we should, within 3 months, we should expect that after July 1st, or is it just? Because it says within 120 days.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're gonna give us all of that without having any scheduled outreach to the community first. I'm just, like, I understand we need to go down this, but I want to be very clear about this.
Right, no, so City Ventures is planning on doing community meetings to get input from the community. Yeah. So part of that is the 30-day, when they're gonna tell us what that timeline is for what that's gonna look like, what's community outreach gonna look like, along with all the other things that they have to do. So
Okay.
a lot of this is new for us, and a lot of this sounds scary. For them, they do this every day. So they already know, just going out and looking at the site, what possibilities are. And so they already have a lot of this in can.
Okay. So, I guess I just want to say then, as a council, I really hope that we can take in what they say. I mean, this is what they do. But I really want us to be able to stand for what we want as well. And really be able to digest what they're saying, and if it's something we don't like, we need to recognize that maybe this is not the way we need to go. And I'm not saying we don't develop, I'm just saying that we need to be very careful about our approach. I also, it doesn't state in here that there's an EIR that's going to be done, so like, that was some of my questions, like what are phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments? So I'm assuming that's full EIR.
Covered in the DDA, will spell out exactly the environmental document that's going to be required.
So in other words, but because it made it sound like within this year we'll have an EIR done.
No, the EIR will be prepared in anticipation of the DDA there, but the development disposition agreement could say, this is gonna be the environmental document that's required, you're gonna have it done in 18 months, whatever it means.
So it could be beyond this.
It could be.
Okay. Also, water is an issue with our site, and it doesn't really address that at all. This talks about utilities, right, and
No, go ahead,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I just feel like I'm not sure if the statement covers how to fully understand our water situation. You know, it says that City Ventures shall consult with all utility companies to determine preliminary if existing utility facilities require expansion, relocation, or undergrounding in connection with the project. And so I just want to make sure that, they are completely aware of all the sticky water issues that we have going on.
That's incumbent on them, and that's exactly what this agreement is for. So while we are negotiating with them exclusively, they know that we're not out talking to the other folks to indeed give them the breathing room to go do a deep dive into all those issues.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the purpose of this process is for them to now go out and figure out what are all the warts that they need to address on this.
Okay.
And then I think to your question, what I think you're getting at in terms of the broader water issue beyond utilities and talking to the utility, project, water utility. Is, you know, that's all covered in the EIR.
Okay.
In terms of water assessment, and a water assessment will be required as part of the EIR.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I know we're working on a new fee schedule, so but the one we passed here, we'll substitute the new one once we, just want to make sure. I guess the other thing in this agreement, it talks about the city manager being able to make lots of decisions for us, which I support. But I would really like it if our city manager can report out to the council on a very regular basis what's happening. And even out to the residents too. We need a lot of communication on this.
Yes.
So if we can establish a city letter or I'll leave it up to you. But I would really like to be regularly updated on this. And I'm sure our residents would like that as well. Okay, I think that's it for me now. Thank you.
I share a lot of those same concerns, and in my discussion with the city manager, we talked about, you know, what this agreement does and what it doesn't do. And mainly, it allows that developer to put that skin in the game, to spend that money to find out if developing out there is even viable for them, because they don't even know at this point. So this allows them, knowing that we'll commit to them and won't go to another developer, allows them to expend those resources to go out and do that. And they're gonna come back and say, either we can or we cannot. And if they can, they'll basically say, this is kind of what we think we can do, and it still works for us. From that point, we will have the ability to modify, change, adjust, everything. And once we do hit that point where it is a viable situation for them, public outreach will be very robust. We'll make sure that happens, and we'll make sure that that is part of any agreement before we go forward, so that we know the public input where we can adjust, change, modify where we need to. And before we enter into that development agreement, that absolutely has to happen. Now, in terms of the water, no, they don't know what kind of project they're gonna have at this point, and until they do, that's when they'll say, these are our water demands, and then Marina Coast Water can take a look at that and provide that water for them. We've been promised that through Marina Coast Water District. Matter of fact, we're the only city that has a will serve letter for that. You know, on top of that, we've been told by the water district, M1W, that with the expansion, we're gonna have plenty of water to do any development on this peninsula. That's what we've been told. So those are the kind of the water, I guess, the responses to any water issues that make sense.
Thank you. I've talked to different water people as well, and I get different answers. So, I just, you know, I see, I just don't want us to go down a road where we end up by promising something that we can't fulfill, and then we get in trouble for it, so, eyes wide open on this, and they'll do their due diligence, and we'll see what they come up with.
Absolutely, and also with the water, if the developer feels as though they're not gonna get the water that they need, they won't enter into that agreement as well. Okay, Councilmember Rex over.
Yeah, thanks to staff and John for working through this whole document. It's quite extensive. I've read it very thoroughly. I agree with Ms. Shirley, we need to go with our eyes wide open. But what I understand, and I'm gonna ask for a clarification, what this does is it sets the stage for development agreement, should we decide we want to do that. If at some point City Ventures comes in and says, yeah, we can make $1 million in this project, but the city's not gonna make a dime on it, we go, time out, we're out of here. If they come in and say, we're gonna give the city $1 million, we're gonna get $5 million, then we can say time out, we need to stop. This doesn't commit us to anything other than providing information and accessibility, the way I understand, to the property. And once we get to that point, in the 30s and the 60s and the 120 days and all that, at some point, the rubber will meet the road, they'll come back and say, yeah, we could do something that maybe looks like this, whether it's a mixed use, whether it's whatever, mixed use, you know, bike friendly, walk friendly type of development. They may not come back, they may come back and go, that's just not gonna work up here, financially it won't work for us. And at that point, then we could either just say, thank you very much, or we could sit down and renegotiate the agreement, or whatever we wanna do. Just find out why it doesn't work, or why it's working so well, either way, that gives us a lot of things. So I'm totally support this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again, Mr. Curtin and our staff, Alex Northoff, for working on this. And of course, I'm also very excited that Delray Oaks will be developed. So has the intent to develop our forecourt land, and I know this is exciting because we haven't developed anything for a long time here in Delray Oaks. And my wish is just really like that we're gonna do this correctly. I know this is an opportunity for all of us to learn from also other developments from our neighboring cities. If we can learn from their mistakes, and then so that we want that will not happen here in our city, and that would be great. And I know the sentiments of our residents is just that we just want the development to reflect really the values and the needs of our residents in here, and so that we'll all become one big happy family, but not a like the new Delray Oaks and the old Delray Oaks. So well, I'm supportive of this one, of this agreement, and of course, I've seen less risk on the side of the city. And then the only thing that we want to really make sure and ensure to our residents is the public engagement, so that they will be heard. And of course, we don't have the monopoly of all the knowledge. And I've always been learning from a lot of people, from great ideas on how to really develop. And this is really like the thing that that excites me, because people have always great ideas, and that's one thing that we can leverage through the public engagement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. And thank you for your questions and comments. And I'll take it out to the public at this point. If there's any public comment, please come on up.
Mayor, City Council, I just wanted to add a little bit of concern, tagging on to the water issue. We have so much water credits, water rights, and I hope the city, as you negotiate initially, let them know that we don't want to give them all of our water rights. we might want to withhold some for the other parcels. And if the City Ventures is going to simply be building homes, which they're primarily focused on doing, and you look at their website, they're all about green, helping the military with discounts and things like that. But what about a civic center? Civic center, what about recreation centers, connectivity? If they're not gonna do those, we're gonna want to retain some land and some water rights for that. So I hope that we let them know when we do this initial dance, see if we want to continue with that relationship. So that's a big concern for me. And as far as the water availability, that would be coming through the Monterey One Water, I believe that's for the Cal-Am area jurisdiction. And we're gonna be getting water from Marina Coast. So how are they gonna be getting their water? Because it's not going in, they're not gonna be pulling from wells at Seaside. So I'm not sure how that would work. But we definitely, they're gonna have to check and make sure that we're gonna have enough water to supply whatever it is that we build out there. And we don't wanna use it all up before we have water for other future, like we might want a conference center. No, not just houses. So anyway, thanks for sharing with them, and I'm excited about the development. It's about time, and I hope it works out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Any other questions or comments? Okay, this is kind of a natural progression that started with the Surplus Land Act, and City Ventures showed an interest, and therefore we could negotiate in good faith with that. But the things that I'd like to highlight is that City Ventures is a very reputable quality developer that has done many projects within California. And they have actually done a project that is somewhat similar to ours, where they had a old Air Force base, Hamilton Air Force Base in Novato, that the city of Novato worked with City Ventures for a project that was out there. One of the things the city manager and I did was we contacted the economic development director at Novato, spoke with her at length about her relationship and experience with City Ventures, and she had nothing but good things to say about it. She said they're a quality organization, very easy to work with, and they did a great job on their former Hamilton Air Force Base. In addition to that, I contacted the mayor of Novato, who's no longer the mayor. He's a council, or he's a county supervisor for the county of Marin. Spoke with him at length. He had also nothing good things to say about the developer and their relationship, and how the city of Novato was able to work with them. So I thought I would also share that with you. And then the other thing that's important with this is that property was given to us for economic development. And you'll see in the next item, if you stick around for it, the budget. Our revenues are fairly flat, is what it comes down to. I mean, what we have is what we have, and we have to live within our means. And corridor development really is an opportunity to increase those revenue streams that will sustain us in the future. That's really, along with the housing that we've agreed to provide out of the form of corridor as part of our housing element, being able to provide that long-term sustainment is also critical to our city. So those are the things that I wanted to share. Thank you to the city manager and city attorney for working this agreement. I think it's well written, and I support it. So with that, I will entertain a motion on this item.
I move to adopt resolution 24-09. No, wrong one. Wrong one. Approve the city manager Second, choose the right to negotiate. Not a resolution.
We have a second.
I second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you everyone for your comments and your questions. I really appreciate it. I'll move on to the next item, which is a combined item. You see it as item 7C to adopt the 2024-N city budget. But the other items underneath it, which would be resolution 11, 12, and 13, are all part of this discussion and will be either approved or denied as a block. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. So with that, I'll give it to the city manager.
Hopefully approved, because we have business taking that next year, next fiscal year. So, yeah, next week, yeah, so, we've talked about this a few times already, not a whole lot has changed since the last time we presented this to you. I'm a bit of a municipal nerd and I really like budgets, and so I appreciate those of you who are here and are sticking it out, because this is one of the biggest things that we do every year. This is one of the most important things we do, and this is one of the most important things to get community input on, because this is how your council sets the priorities for the next year. This is how they tell me and the rest of the staff what they want us to do. It's by the funding that they give us to do it. So thank you for sticking with us. Fortunately, you know, the economy's slowing down a little bit. There's been inflation, and I think people are just now starting to feel it, and people are starting to constrain their spending a little bit. So one of the key takeaways in this budget is that it's a status quo budget. That the revenues, our biggest revenue source other than property tax is sales tax. And that's projected right now to at best stay where it was with this current fiscal year going into next fiscal year. So that's reflected in this budget. But with that, because honestly, because this city has a history and an ability to address tight times and tightening the belt, it comes easy to us. Karen and Ron and Chris all keep a tight watch on their budgets and do an excellent job of coming in under budget every year. Like Ron likes to say, he's dollar short, which helps. He gets stuff done at a reduced rate for us all the time, and it really helps out. But because of that, even with constraining our budgets, we're not in the same situation. Ironically, we're doing better than most of the surrounding cities. Other cities are looking at budget deficits and how to address budget deficits. We're just in status quo and with a little bit of an increase. But we're able to propose a balanced budget to you all with really not a lot of effort. The department heads all chipped in and figured out ways to tighten the belt a little bit, but it really didn't impact services at all. We're going to continue to provide the same excellent level of services going forward. But more importantly, as you see in here, we have a lot of reserves, which are things that the city didn't have in the past. And so we can weather a downturn in the economy better than we would have been able to. And we have opportunities. So one of the key changes in the budget is the capital improvement program. You'll see in here that it's pretty heavily loaded to the next fiscal year. That's more by nature of opportunities to get things done and need to get things done, because there's emergency repairs that need to get done, such as Rosita Road and the parking lot in City Hall and the City Hall roof that were all storm damage related. So those have to get done, and then tying in with other projects that other agencies are doing in our city, where we can get economies of scale by piggybacking on their projects and getting a bigger project for the benefit of the community. So right now we have a balanced budget. Revenues and expenditures are set at 4.8 million. You see at the bottom under there for the general fund, it shows a negative of 80,000, but that's because we're transferring 80,000 out of general fund balance to the capital projects to get those capital projects done. So as I said, main takeaway for the general fund, I just want to highlight some of the things. There's only one thing that's changed since, well, two things technically that have changed since the last time we presented the budget, but I'll go over the key changes. We added one new position, the administrative services technician position, which is great. And initially, it's going to be an additional cost, but in the long run, it's going to be a reduction in our ongoing operational costs. Because currently, those are functions that we're outsourcing to RGS, our finance and HR services. And so a lot of that we'll be able to bring back in-house and provide a better service, a higher service level for actually less money. We still have RGS to help us with our budget and our kind of high level, help me with the high level finance stuff. And then also have them on call because eventually some of our staff are gonna wanna take vacations. Karen's been here for 20 years without vacation, she's gonna want a vacation. And we need backup. But so anyway, so that was a great addition. Thank you all for working with me on that. This year, we're not proposing any cost of living increases for the staff. But what we are doing is we're looking at retention. We have an excellent staff right now. I think you could probably say we have I don't want to say that. We have an excellent staff right now. I'm not gonna say that I wasn't here. In my experience, they're the best staff we've ever had. They're the only staff we've ever had, so they're great. In my experience, but you know, I've lived here for 30 years. I know what some of the struggles have been in the past. But we're beyond all of that. We're great. We want to work on retention. Recruitment is not our problem anymore. Historically for Delray Oaks and other cities like us, recruitment was always a problem because we can't pay the same and don't provide the same opportunities for advancement. So we have to look for other opportunities on how do we get people to come. One of those is work environment. And we have a great work environment here. We have an incredibly supportive city council. We have an incredibly supportive community. And like you heard in Karen's proclamation, it extends beyond just what we do here at City Hall. We all come to the park parties. We're all part of the community. And that adds to our enjoyment and our fulfillment in working here. It keeps us here. But we want to look for some other ways of encouraging people to stay. And so in the past, the city had offered an educational incentive and then that went away during lean times. But we want to bring that back. And so it's small, it's just a little, you know, hey, thank you. But it's also an encouragement to some of our younger, especially our officers when they come in, they don't have a degree. Degrees are necessary if they want to promote to executive level positions because those are minimum requirements. And this is just a little added incentive to get people to want to go back to school. We have a tuition reimbursement component to this that's already part of the city policies. And then this is just added incentive of an extra $100 or $200 a month to their salary once they achieve those goals. And then longevity. Right now, we have 3 staff members who will benefit from this. That's Karen, obviously, and our chief, Chris Berkwin, and then our sergeant who you saw earlier, David Newman. They're the only 3 who have been here long enough to benefit from this, but we're all on your heels. So again, it's a small thing, but it's encouragement to stay. It's something that we can do that all the other surrounding jurisdictions offer. So it's just making us competitive. But it's also showing the staff that we value the staff and we want the staff to stay and encourage them to stay. And then the only other things, you know, some folks are still getting their staff increases. We're going to keep one of the police sergeant positions vacant and unfunded for right now. Seem to be working just fine without that. And then, as everybody knows, with your own personal insurance and your homeowners insurance and everything, insurance rates are going up. Last year, we took a big hit with workers' comp insurance rates going up. This year, our liability insurance is where we're taking the hit. So that's the big, those are the things that we can't control, that we have to have. Those are the things that are going up, and then we have to adjust in other areas to address those. So that's what we've done in this budget. And then the last thing that I just want to touch on again is the capital improvement program. And for those of you in the public, you're going to see a lot of construction, not just for CAD, but you're going to see a lot of construction going on in the city. And we're going to be doing a lot of upgrades to City Hall. But two of the biggest projects that we're going to be doing, we got a grant funded project to do wildfire fuel reduction. That'll be happening all along the park here between the park and Via Verde and then all the way down to Work Memorial. That'll make the community safer and protect us from wildfires, which also then protects all of you homeowners from your fire insurance. Because if there is a wildfire in the area and we're within a certain number of miles, then we all lose our fire insurance. We don't want to be the cause of that. So that's why we're taking care of that and being good stewards of our open spaces. And then we have the big list of other projects, but the two biggest, obviously, are Fortag, which we're partners with TAMC in getting that done. We have some additional projects that we're tagging onto that for economies of scale, so we can make some improvements. And then also Rosita Road, you'll see a big project going on there because as you're going up the hill from Angeles, we're having a slippage down into the creek, and so we need to address that before we lose the road. So we're gonna be taking care of that. We're also coordinating that with Cal-Am. They have a water main break, and so we're trying to get all of that done all at one time so that we save some money by just mobilizing that contractor once. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, I'll start with Councilman Al.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No questions. Thank you for the presentation. The explanations on appropriations, fundamental concerns. Yes, as you mentioned, there's been lengthy discussion. We received a report from Mr. Moreno last month. We posed questions, had a discussion amongst the council. I have the utmost confidence in our finance committee and their due diligence, reflecting one of our core values in fiscal responsibility. And the city manager's recommendations as well, that prepare to support the adoption of items, the resolutions 10 through 13.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Sherrill.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this. We've been working on this for a while. I really like those additions for longevity and for education, supporting that and encouraging that. I'm happy about that. I would still like to see strategic planning. We didn't do it last year. It's in the budget, so I'm gonna plug it again. I'd really like to see us do that. And I do look forward in the finance committee to start looking at policies around our reserve that we have, which is unlike us. And so I want to be thoughtful about how we use that money, and I want to really start those discussions about that. You have on here establishing a vehicle and equipment replacement reserve, which I think is a great idea. But then, again, just really understanding how, what is the plan forward, in terms of how we use our money that is, available to us. And right now, we have a big chunk, and so I'd like to know, we need to have some discussions about what we're gonna do with that. So I look forward to having those discussions in the finance committee. And, yeah, thanks again for all your work and doing this together. Appreciate it. And because you responded to some of the things that we wanted in here, and I appreciate that acknowledgement and that response. Thank you.
So to that point too, we wanted to get more in here and more narrative and all of that. But we're kind of constrained with what we've got, resource wise. So we've been chipping away at it, but this year hopefully will be the year that we can, Roberto and Beth and I can look at getting a software system that'll kind of be more canned, and then we'll actually have a more professional looking budget book that explains better in layman's terms for the public and hopefully engages more of the public on what it is we're doing, because it'll give them the narrative to explain the numbers.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Ragsdale.
Yeah, thanks to staff and the budget committee. We've been working on this for quite some time. Well, it's good that we're holding everything flat. Again, like I think Councilman Blue mentioned it, going forward, we need to figure out how to raise a little more money so that we can keep moving forward. We've done an excellent job with the surplus of the reserves, so that we're not faced with complete devastation if something does go wrong with a storm or something like that. That's wonderful to have. And I totally support this budget. It's good, it's flat. We always come back and look at it halfway through the year. And if we have to adjust, we will. No, I'm good to go. All right.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have further comments, other than, I'm proud of our team here, for creating really a balanced budget. Because that's very, since like right now, it's very hard to do that. In comparing with other jurisdictions or other cities or even our state. Yeah, thank you so much, city hall staff and also the budget committee members. Thank you.
All right, I'll take it out to the public, any public comment on the budget? Okay. Seeing none, I also would like to say, it's a balanced budget, and that is a rare thing to see these days. And what's great about it too, is it's a balanced budget without cutting a bunch of services or getting rid of staff. You actually added staff in an efficient way. So you get both, additional staff and no cut in services with this budget. And like the city manager had mentioned, all of our capital improvement projects, the construction, the things that we're trying to fix around the city, we're able to move forward with those too. And actually, we got to the point where we didn't want to make the whole city a construction zone because, you've got FORTAG going on and all these other capital improvement projects. So we also took that into consideration as well. But great job on the budget. When I look at where it was and how far it's come, really great job by staff. Really appreciate that. Would you like to talk the next item, or if you have any other comments on items D or that?
No, not really. If you have questions, there were staff reports associated with them. The appropriation limit is something that we do every year, and that's dictated by, that's a formula, it's dictated by state law, Proposition 14, Proposition 111. And it's a formula based on population increase or decrease and the cost of living. So it's to restrict our spending, actually, it's not to help us. And then the policy for investment is the same as last year. Oh, yeah, and then the salary schedule just captures the step increases per book. Yeah.
Okay. All right, based on that, then I'll accept the motion to adopt resolution 10 through 13.
So moved.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I'll move on to staff reports, which are located as well as correspondence in the packet. The one thing that city manager wanted me to point out is we have a lot of FORTAG construction that's on the verge to commence. Granite Rock, who is the contractor for FORTAG, decided that they'll start at the underpass location across from the frog pond and near the public works yard. And what we'll see is start seeing equipment staging in that area, and also behind Safeway in between the garden center. We'll also see equipment being staged. The one thing that they still need to do is move some of the utilities. So once that work is done in Granite Rock, we'll jump right in and start. City manager wants me to emphasize that information about the construction, please go to the city website and constantly update it to tell you what's going on. Okay, and with that, our next meeting is on August 27th at 6 p.m. and we are adjourned.